Okay, let's do it. So, your first, Marlon. So, you said you want some advice with Ruby. So, now that you guys are in a different living situation and your son has really made a good connection with another 7-year-old on the property, now Ruby is feeling pretty left out, like she's losing her brother. And he's been the person that understands her the most. And yeah, absolutely. Like, she's showing some grief, and you said you really do feel for her as she's feeling completely powerless and left out. Yeah. Did you feel like you wanted or needed to elaborate any further on what you wrote, or?
No, I think it's pretty much just that she goes up and, tries to insert herself in everything they do,
Yeah.
to try and be part of what they're doing. But I think Tom's sort of, and I've tried to explain that, there's an age gap, quite a big age gap as well between, the girl and her. So I feel like that's maybe part of the reason that she connects with Tom better.
Yep.
And it's actually quite nice for Tom, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
and he plays so differently with her than he does with any other child
Mhm.
that he's connected with before. And I think he's often really good with girls
Yeah.
rather than boys. So
Yeah.
it's like they balance each other out a bit. So
Yeah,
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 yeah.
makes sense. Cool. I love how you're looking at it from more of like a long-term thing as well, like not just this one scenario or circumstance, but how to help her with the loss of any kind throughout life. Because no matter how close our friendship circles are, or our relationships are with our colleagues or whatever, someone always leaves a job, someone always moves away, or friendship circles change. So I love that you're looking to like approach it, as a, like, how do you deal with these feelings rather than how do you deal with the circumstance. With regards to the circumstances, I want to say this. I feel like if she, number one, I think it's really good as a life skill anyway to just share her feelings and thoughts with Tom. It's really good for their relationship. And just to preface it, like, and maybe you even open it and start it, say, hey guys, let's sit down. Like, I want to have it. There's something important I feel like we all need to talk about and need to acknowledge. And then, maybe give Ruby a heads up on it first and just say, look, it is really important to share your feelings with Tom, not to try to change what he's doing, not with an expectation that if I share my feelings with you, that you will put my feelings before your own, and you will change your behavior for me. But sometimes we need to give our siblings an actual opportunity to care. Like, he might absolutely be oblivious to the depth of how it's affecting her. He may not, but regardless, it's good for her, particularly with the opposite sex, to just to verbalize how she feels. Hey Tom, look, I don't like expect you to fix all my problems, but I have been really feeling left out, and I wanted to see if it would be possible that maybe, even if it's not every time, but maybe could we come to an agreement or something where sometimes I could join in, and they might be able to both find a way to get their needs met, where she might feel like sometimes she can be included at least, and he might still get some power around saying, okay, well, on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays, or whatever they come up with, like, well, you can when we're playing these games, but not when we're doing these games, or whatever. So it's just good, regardless, to open that conversation and let them both process whatever feelings come out of it, even if it's a bit further disappointment or something like that. I think no matter what, it's good to lean into, rather than when we feel like we're already vulnerable, then having a fear of speaking transparently, because we are more susceptible to easily
Yeah.
being hurt again. I would definitely just open that up as a practice for communication, full stop. But it gives Tom the chance to go, to feel it, and to you know clearly know that, hey Tom, you don't have to change. Like, this is just Ruby communicating how she's feeling, and all I'm asking for you to do is to take it in consideration and receive it. And it doesn't mean you have to change anything, but maybe just being aware of it, it might just change the way that when she comes over, instead of them saying, go away, we don't want to play with you, he might say, hey Ruby, would it be okay if you can come back in half an hour and play with us? He just might have a different approach. At least he gets the opportunity to have some kind of compassion, and for her to feel heard. So that's one thing. On another level, around grief, first of all, I would also put it to her around Rubes. Like, I would definitely put it to her around Ruby. It's like, in a way, like, you know what? you're right, you are different, you are growing in your consciousness, you have expanded, like you really are coming to new levels of who you are. And as you do that, it's not like they've separated from you, it's almost like you're separating from them, not in a like I'm above anyone kind of a thing, but in understanding that a 7-year-old absolutely like isn't able to connect and relate to the amazingness that you are. There aren't many people in this world that truly can connect like you do, that have intuition like you do, that have the heart like you do. And so if I always loved teaching my kids about being that they're weird and that they're different and that most people aren't like us, so that it's a beautiful kind of like armor that they wear, and it's almost a compliment when people find it hard to connect. So instead of just drawing the age different, maybe like just open a conversation, because I feel like Ruby loves these conversations with you around it's also a frequency difference, that because you're rising and you're really coming into who you are, that creates a frequency mismatch. But don't ever lower your frequency just to feel like you can fit in. This is also how life helps you learn how to be alone. And when we are alone, that is the only time we can get to know the true depth of ourselves ever, like ever. And so as much as you might see this as these people won't play with me and I'm powerless, maybe life is preparing you for what's next for you. And in order to go to what's next for you, you have to come to a deeper knowing of yourself, a deeper comfort of just hanging out with yourself. Maybe life is creating a situation where you are alone, which means you might be more bored, which means it opens space for more imagination, more creativity. And maybe that's how life is going to start getting you on the path towards whatever your passion is going to be in this life. And so just help her see like a different perspective around aloneness.
That's great.
Yeah, I had that conversation with Miami maybe 2 years ago at school when she was going through stages where she didn't really belong to a friendship group. She didn't want to hang out with these ones anymore, but these people were like kind of her friends in class, but not fully her friends out in the yard kind of a thing. And she was in a bit of a transition. And sometimes she even preferred and liked to, be by herself. But it came from all the seeds of planted of like, understand that the transition is where, you don't really know where you belong yet next, but you do know where you can no longer stay. And so you're in this little bit of a lost world in between. You don't belong to this group, but you're not quite at this group. And understand that, part of what stop or changes the way people accept you into their group or whatever it is, you have to understand. I used to say to her all the time, Mama, you have to understand you have like an energy about you that to some people that have low self-esteem and low sense of self, they will find that intimidating until they really get to know your heart. Just because you are so sure of yourself, you are so strong in yourself, you absolutely know yourself, and you have a level of comfortability with yourself that most other children don't have. And that emits an aura and an energy that is a mismatch, because the only people that can match that frequency are people who are like you. Let's be real. Who's like you? Who is actually like you? We're different. We aren't like most people, our family. None of us are. And so I would always put that in there. So there's always like this spin on anytime I feel different or like I'm not belonging, it's not because I'm the not good enough one. If I want to frame it anyway, I'd rather my kids frame it as I'm the better one than I'm the worst one if they're going to frame it.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a great perspective. I love all of that. What I think Ruby struggles with as well is when she does go up to play with them, is that she then tries to take over a bit. Right. And usually I think when she used to play with Tom, she was like the one that gave them all the rules and, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be this and I'm going to be playing this. Right. And they are not, she has to actually fit into what they're doing, and she's struggling with that part as well. That, what? I'm not the boss.
And do you know what how I'd put that to her is, understand the dynamics have changed, and understand if you are the one you're the one with the problem here. It's like if you don't clean up your room and I want you to clean it, I'm the one with the problem. You don't have a problem with the messy room. I have a problem and I want to sort out a solution to my problem. But it's not you that has a problem. It's me, right? And by the same token here, it's you're the one with the problem, meaning you're the one that wants to play. You're the one that doesn't want to be alone. You're the one that wants to be engaged. So understand that if you're the one that has the problem, that if you want to play, you have to understand that you do so with the understanding that you are wanting to play with them. So whatever it is they're doing, you're saying, I want to be part of that. Not I want to come in and create my own thing and change what you're doing. If you're saying, I want to be part of what you're doing, then you have to surrender yourself a little bit to know, to regardless of what ideas you might have or how you can see improvements. And it would be normal for you to think like that because your frequency is higher than them, right? Because of your age and because of your awareness and all these things. And so understand that, if you choose that you are the one, that they have an answer to your problem. You feel alone, they can let you join in. If they're the ones with the answer, then you join under their conditions. And this is a learning process. And how you can put that to her is, sometimes when life is preparing you to be a leader, it needs you to understand what it feels like to be a follower, because you can't lead people you can't relate to. And so, if life is preparing you to be able to have special connections with certain people throughout your life that will be drawn to you because of how you are able to lead them to feel better about themselves, to think differently, whatever it might be that, that you add to their life. In order to really understand that person, you have to be able to relate. In order to relate, you have to have on some level experienced what it's likely they're experiencing. So you coming in and not being the leader, not making the rules, you learning to surrender and submit to someone else's ideas, to someone else's creation in this instance, doesn't mean you can't say, hey guys, can I play with you? And would it be okay if tomorrow, can I play with you guys again? And could I make the game? But if you're choosing to participate now, that you do so, you make that request with the understanding that you are joining in with them, rather than, it's not fair if you're saying, I want to join in with you, but can you change what you're doing so that I can do what I want to do? So you've got to choose. Either you stay in your own lane, stay by yourself and, have your own ideas and work on your own frequencies and do your own things and learn to be okay being by yourself. Or when you choose to play with them, you're choosing to play with them, with what they are doing.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think there's lots I can chat to her about.
Because then it's like they're not leaving you out. They're just saying we don't want to play your idea. Yeah. So they didn't say you couldn't play. You actually chose that you didn't want to play what they were playing. That was actually your choice,
Which is actually a great lesson for her overall, like with her friends at school and everything as well, because her ASD brain is like, but this is not how I wanted. I wanted this way. Yes. So she often, it can be very bossy in play. So it's not easy for her, I think, to go, why is Tom not, being
that's right. I have the same control over Tom, and maybe help us see that it may be part of where your triggers are coming from, Ruby. Isn't that you can't belong and therefore you're alone? Maybe in here it's that you have lost a control over your brother, and your brain will want to frame that to support its own story, to say I feel like I've lost my brother. You haven't lost your brother. What you've done is you aren't willing to grow and change yourself to match your brother, and your brother no longer takes orders from you. Yeah,
that's definitely part of it for sure. Yeah,
and it's awesome. Just, help her see all those angles so that she can, again, tell her life is preparing you. Okay, whenever you're moving through something like this, you're being prepared for something, and what you're experiencing now is going to be relevant in what you do next. And without this growth, you won't be ready for what life has got ready for you next. So, and she is coming to that age where, a couple of years and she'll be going to high school and making that transition or whatever. And all of that's pretty scary. And a lot of the primary school kids, they go into different high schools, so you don't get the same friendship group. So life is starting to prepare you over the next year, 2 years, whatever, to be okay with change, to be okay with dynamics changing, because I'm not going to lie to you, this is what the next 10 years of your life looks like as everybody comes into their teenage years and everybody starts to find out who they are and who they're not and who they vibe with and what their beliefs are. And all of their beliefs and thoughts create their frequencies. And some frequencies are going to start not matching and some frequencies are going to match more than others. And this is what the next 10 years looks like. So this is how life is saying, hey, well, let me get you ready in a pretty gentle way using your brother as a messenger, because you do know he still loves you. You do know you still love him, but that kind of prepares you and gets your nervous system a bit familiar with what happens later on when certain friends might not come to the same school as you or friendship groups change and things like that. So this is how life prepares you for what's next.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Holly. That's really good.
No worries, darling. Pleasure. Okay, so Danny. Are you there, Dan?
Hi. Sorry.
Hello. Oh, that's okay.
Hi.
Oh, I knew you'd be in your cute little robe. It's past Danny's bedtime.
Past my bedtime. Holly,
Resilience.
I put the post up about Jack, but your chat with Marlon just gave me some really beautiful pointers to have some discussions with him.
Uh-huh.
We've come through the other side. So he is quite talented like his dad in sport, in that, he's such an accurate kick and amazing. Like, he's got an eye for things in footy and stuff. But because he doesn't have the grunt in him, he sort of holds himself back and you never really see what he's truly capable of. And that hasn't worried him. So it hasn't worried us, because up until this point, he's been quite naive and he thinks he's killing it, which we think is a sweet spot, because eventually the grunt will come. But he's just started playing this season of basketball, and it's become really obvious to him that a lot of his friends are a lot higher level than what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it's a bit of a mixture between, he just hasn't practiced the way he has in other sports. So he doesn't have the skill level, but he certainly doesn't have the grunt either.
Yeah.
So as soon as he played, and this year they've structured it a bit differently. So some of his good friends have stayed in a lower division.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's gone to school, and there's been a lot of talk in school that he should be in the lower division. And generally he doesn't really worry about what other people think or say. He's pretty resilient, but he feels he should be in the lower division as well.
Okay.
So
in the lower division, not the high division.
No, the lower division.
Okay,
like he doesn't do enough. And some of his mates have been saying, you're not good enough. You shouldn't be up. We should be up above you, but he's actually older. That's why he's been put above, not because of ability.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't explain that very well.
Yeah, gotcha.
So this is the first time that he's really realised there's a difference between his ability and his mates. And I've had a few days that I've had lots of trouble getting him to school, and it's been on the days when he's done something physically to himself, and it took me a long while to work out what it was. But it turned out that he was already feeling he couldn't keep up in the basketball at recess and lunch. So if he went to school with any ailment, it would just be more evidence for his mates and for himself that he can't be in the higher division.
Got it.
So in the last week, we've put a fair bit of effort into practicing, and he rang me tonight and he's ecstatic. And his team, who's like fifth or something, bet the top team. He played a ripper game. He got goals. So obviously the help we've been giving him has really paid off. But I just want to know, how do you go about when it's not him listening to other people? It's actually him, like people give him, young boys and small town, they compare all the time because they're with the same people doing the same stuff every day, every evening, every sport. Whereas he doesn't usually listen, like he doesn't usually give a damn. So when he actually does start to listen because he can see the difference.
Yes.
How do I go about that? That's my first question. And the second question is there any way that I can develop his grit so that he can fly
I saw you and Martine and Katie all like talking about that. So here's what I'm going to say. First of all, which way am I going to go first? I'll do grunt second. Okay. So first of all, with Jack's scenario, even though he's had a good game today, and this is for everyone listening, when your kids have a sport or something, a situation like this where they're not so good at and they're quite unfamiliar with that feeling because they're normally good at stuff, use it as even when they're like struggling with, I know Martine wrote that Lani's struggling with maths, for example, right? But she's really good at like art and all these other things. And netball and whatever. So when your kids have a struggle, first of all, make sure your tone and your language is like, oh yeah, I am so excited. I am so curious and interested. I will be paying attention to how you handle this. Finally, I like that. Finally, there's something you're not naturally good at, so you're kind of giving them this backhanded compliment in terms of like, well, come on, when it comes to, it's almost getting boring. You're getting A's, or you're good at footy, you're good at this. Finally, there's something that's going to challenge you. I'm going to be real interested to see how you handle this challenge. And this actually excites me because anyone can do good at being good. Everyone likes to be good, and anyone can be good at, can feel good when they're good at something. It takes a whole different level person to not be good at something and to still have a good attitude. And the second thing you put in there is, and by the way, this is where you learn. So some things you have are gifts and talents. They're things that you're born with, right? Like a natural ability for something. And then some things in your life will be skills. And a skill is a learned behavior. And what makes any person improve with any skill is spaced repetition. It's how often you practice it and how much time is in between each practice, okay? Because our body stores muscle memory. And so the more that our brain is sending signals to certain muscles, like compared to kicking a ball while you're running, coordinating all those muscles, or dribbling a basketball or whatever it might be, or looking up and getting ready to pass and things like that, all of those take practice for the brain to send the signals to the muscles. That's all skills are, learned abilities, and the brain gets really good at learning how to send signals to the muscles that are required for you to do any particular thing that you want to do, okay? Or if it's a subject or something at school, ultimately, like it's more like your brain sends signals to certain areas of your brain and memory. But ultimately, you're in control of how good you are. You're always in control of how much you can improve and of how fast you can improve. So you make the decision, Jack. You get to choose here. You know what? Finally, there's something you're not natural at. It's not a gift. But it's a skill you're going to have to learn. And you can learn any skill as like deeply and perfectly as you like. It just depends how much you are willing to commit to repeating that behavior or that performance or that skill over and over again. And not just like how often you'll do it, but how much time is in between. You do it twice a day, you'll have a very big difference to doing it once every second day, for example. So you get to choose. And that kind of leads me into grunt, right? Grunt is not something that you can teach, and it's not something you should try to teach. And in fact, I think a lot of people get fucked up. A lot of our adults, a lot of people that come to Purpose Retreat, we tried to do things with grunt that we thought we wanted to do, when all along, if we actually had tuned into ourselves, we didn't want to fucking do it. And like we forced ourselves, and we used our discipline and our grit, and we like focus. And sometimes we're literally completely abandoning ourselves because actually we don't want to do it. We're doing it for all the wrong reasons that don't align with our soul values. We're doing it because I'll be the only person that doesn't play basketball, or because I'll have no one to play with at recess if everybody's playing and I don't really want to play, or if I don't play competition, I'll miss out on part of the friendship chats. Sometimes there's another reason, which is why I don't need to tell you to go out the front and fucking kick a footy and have some grunt when it comes to that, and practice or whatever. But when it comes to basketball, for example, I'm just using, I notice you're not as naturally drawn to practicing it. And that's okay. But you get to choose what happens here. I'm not for a second going to try to teach you that or tell you, and you tell them this by not telling them, right? I'm not going to tell you, Jack, that you need to be more motivated or more disciplined or you need to practice more. I'm not going to say that. You're a smart boy and you know yourself what you need to do to improve at something. And anytime I have watched you your whole life, and anytime you decided to practice something more often, even if it was your schoolwork, whether it was footy, you have improved. You know that about yourself. You don't need to hear that from me. So you kind of just reminded him without telling him. And you've basically just said, if you're not practicing, don't expect to get better. Or if you want to get better, go practice, but without telling him to do that. And then we as parents need to let them suck at something. And it's like I use that language with my girls, like that, you know, you following your dreams and your purpose and having an adventurous life is going to come down to how much permission you can give yourself to fucking suck at something. Because if you can't give yourself permission to suck, you will give up so many opportunities. You won't even try go for certain dreams. You'll need to be sure you can do it before you even try it. And that's what most adults do. And that's why they start limiting what they try. And then that's what limits their life. And that's what limits their goals and their dreams. And they wake up at 50 going like, what did I do with the last 40 years? Because we start to not give ourselves permission to suck. So this is good. Do you know what I love about basketball? It's teaching you how to learn to suck a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean you completely suck, but I even like to get them like that word. That can feel a bit harsh. Like, are you saying I suck? So to begin with, you might be a bit more gentle. You know, this is something that you're going to need to work at. You're going to need to decide whether or not you want to improve this skill. And if it's not a natural born talent, the only way a skill improves is by repetition. You're in full control of that. You have full control as to how much and how fast you improve. And by the way, if you choose not to improve, I will celebrate that. I will love to sit on the sidelines and watch you every week out there with a bunch of kids that are naturally as good at basketball as you are at football and kicking a good straight kick. They're as naturally good at basketball and you're not. And that's going to be the moment that I get to see my son shine, not because he's hitting the most goals, not because he's getting the most steals, not because he's the best ball handler, but because he's got the best attitude and he's putting in the best effort and he's giving himself permission to not be the best at something. And I'll be more proud of that than how many goals you can shoot.
Oh, I love that so, so much. Amazing. I need to start having late nights and tapping back in here, don't I?
Well, maybe. I know you're a very conscious parent already, but yeah, that's that's don't try and make, if your kids don't have especially Katie, I saw your comment about Willow's like business. Understand, like, you know, in that, how applying the principles there is that children do not and should not have a connection to money, but so that's why she, you know, doesn't really want to do what she needs to do to, you know, keep consistent with the little business that she started with the chickens. So we don't want to like teach them basically the principles we start to teach them when we try to like push them into something, or not push them, but try to encourage them in areas where they're not showing, you know, a natural motivation. If we do that, we're wiring them to be the kind of adults that will hate their job at 22 and fucking stay there till they're 40 because they've just learned to just do the shit that they don't like to do. Right. And so the good thing is a child wouldn't. So it's never money that excites the child or that should even have value for a child, but what money can give them access to, what choices are available to her. So it's not about the money. The money is literally just the vehicle for the thing that she does want. So if ever you feel like you need to motivate a child, motivate them intrinsically by connecting whatever is on the outside to something they want on the inside, and not trying to, you know, all of us to push our life philosophies on them, because in life, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to make a dollar. We don't want to do that to our kids because that beats the dreams out of them. We want them to only, until they are at an age where they have to fucking pay for a few things. They have to pay for fuel. They have to pay for rent. Like, you've got life to do, or you've got board to pay or whatever. until that stage, we want to encourage them to only work where there is passion. This is what Purpose Retreat is all about, where there is passion, where there is true motivation, like intrinsic motivation, where no one needs to pump you up for it. Like use that as your navigation system through life. Like let that be the blueprint. And then later on, when it's necessary, we bring some things in sometimes that you have to do, the whole get to do, have to do, choose to do thing. But yeah, so if she was excited about doing a chicken business, and then she kind of likes selling the chicken or whatever and getting the money, but she does not like the stuff that requires that, you can still put those principles in place, but also they might need extra support because they're not supposed to like that. That's not what a child, like when my daughters used to clean bins and stuff like that, right? A lot of you seen those posts when they were like 10, they'd clean the neighbors' bins or they'd go water the neighbors' gardens at 9 years old or whatever. And, like they didn't like cleaning bins all the time. And I'm not going to motivate you. You told the lady tomorrow that you'll water her garden, and now it's that day and you can't be bothered going. And so you've got a choice to make. If you choose not to go, you choose not to take the money. But at the very least, you have to, have enough personal integrity to go and announce to that lady or contact her and say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to be there to water your garden. But I'm not going to push you into, you can't let her down. We'll have those discussions and we'll say, hey, this is a moment where you get to choose, whether this is about commitment for you and this is about a bit of discipline for you, or whether this is about a bit of self-honor for you and, not just pushing yourself to, not let someone else down. So only you know the answer to that. You intrinsically know that answer. I don't know that answer because on any given day, it could be one or the other. Today, it could be like, if I force myself to go do this, I am literally betraying myself. Another day, it's like, I'm just being lazy and, I'm just not being committed. So with all of those principles, understand we need to keep letting children be children. Maybe where possible, try to help them set up businesses that don't require a lot of, admin-y type boring stuff. Also, we need to teach them lessons that you can't just have the fun, but I would link it to a goal that they've got or something they do want, so that whenever they ever are working, like they're working hard, what makes us feel like we're working hard is when we're doing something we don't want to do, right? If people who love what they do never feel like they work hard, right? And so if there is a moment that we are encouraging and supporting our children to work hard, to be disciplined and do what they would prefer not to have to do, we at least want to make sure that the only time they're ever willing to work hard in their life and to sacrifice and do something that they don't really want to do is only when that is part of the deal. It's the natural consequence for something that I really do want. It's always linked to a desire that I'm clear on that I want in my life. In that moment, it's okay to extend myself, but never at the expense of myself. That's like a life rule. It's okay to extend yourself, but never at the expense of yourself. So if there's not something in this for you, don't do it. Like that's the roadmap I want you to use the rest of your life. When you start a job that you love and then 2 years later, everything rises and falls on leadership and you get a new manager and you get a new boss and the whole culture of the place changes. No matter how much you loved it before, when you don't love it now, leave. Don't stay there. I don't want your nervous system wired to make that okay. And then 10 years later, you wish you left 10 years ago.
Holly, what about like family responsibilities?
Mm-hmm.
Because someone like Jack, that'll never be aligned for him.
Yeah, I get that. And so you always got to keep family contributions, right? Contributions and responsibilities. The word contribution is better. So again, depending on the age of the child, I always encourage it. So some family contributions are, like they're set in stone. So it's like might be cleaning up after dinner, putting the bins out and unpacking the dishwasher or something like that. Depending on the age and the what's the word, the way their brains work, right? So ADHD kids or ASD kids and things like that, we do need to give them a bit of sometimes they want it to always be exactly the same, and an ADHD child is like, that's the most boring thing on the planet. Today I'll do the bins, tomorrow I'll do the dishwasher, the next day I'll clean the toilets for you. I don't really care. I'll do something, just give me something different, because of the monotony that they just hate, right? And so depending on the child and the age, it's good to have like a list of, these are our family contributions. And every day you need to do at least 2 things off that list. But the little bit of power you can have is that you get to choose what 2 things they are, or you get to choose one and I get to choose one. So one you have to do that I say, I want you doing this today, and the other one you get to choose. So that way they get a bit of variety, but within something that's a contribution. It's also okay for them to have one regular thing that is just theirs. But again, we want to link that to something that has a benefit for them. And family, contributing to our family and being appreciated and receiving gratitude. And really, that's why appreciative praise is really important. Understanding the difference you make to me when you don't want to do that. So using our descriptive praise when they do those things. You know what, Jack? I just want to just pause for a second and say thank you so much, because I know not only did you just do that job, I know how much you hate doing that job and how boring that job is for you. So the fact that you did something that you really don't like doing means that you had to put extra effort into that than anyone else who doesn't hate that job. That requires extra effort for you. So what I really appreciate isn't the job, it's the effort that you were just willing to put in to contribute to our family.
Yeah, I love that. We actually already do all of that. And I also tell him at the start of the day what needs to be achieved by bedtime. So he's like,
perfect. Yeah.
Or other times I'll say, mate, I'm under pressure. I need to take the bin out now. But he loves being able to choose. He loves that power, and he loves being able to do it whenever he wants. So he's actually really contributing, but it's a little bit of practice and a little bit of tough love. But I just wanted to make sure.
Or prefacing it. Like, it's also like, let's say it just happens on the spot and something just happened or whatever. And, you're like, shit, I didn't warn him, whatever. You just start your sentence with, like Bay is very similar to Jack, right? We laugh about it all the time. And I'll say, Bay, I hate that I'm going to ask you this, because I know every part of you is going to be like, no, can you not ask me this? And I do apologize for the timing of asking this. And unfortunately, what I'm about to ask you for, I need done. You don't always put a clause in. You don't have to do it right now, but I need it done in the next 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So that's almost now anyway, but you're just reminding them that they got a little bit of say in this, right? So I'm really sorry. If I could have told you earlier, I would have. I know you hate this, but I really need you to get that done for me. Don't have to do it now, but I do need it done in 5 minutes. And then you give it a couple of minutes, you walk away, and then you come back and you go, hey, this is the only reminder I'm going to say, because I know even though you hate it, you've got intentions to do it for me, and you probably just didn't realize how much time has gone. You're pushing the 5 minutes now. So next, when I come back, I need you to make sure it's done. So you just, almost let them feel. So you just preface, I know you're going to hate this. So the brain is literally ready for receiving something it's going to hate, and therefore it won't go through the feedback loop in the brain into the part of the brain that wants to resist or reject what you're asking.
He's actually really amazing at helping, and even when I do put him on the spot, he'll always do it without fighting me. It's only if he's super duper tired, and I just won't even get then. But it was more, I know that's not natural. That's not his natural way of being. Like, he does it for me because he knows it helps, and we've praised him, and
that's what he gets out of it, right? Because you get the feeling of some self-satisfaction knowing you contribute and knowing that you really make a difference. So he still gets something out of that. It's not like he's just doing a job. And if you didn't give him a thanks, if you said, well, so you should bloody, you're old enough to help around here. If you had one of those shitty old attitudes like our parents had, then that would be then you're wiring him to just do shit he doesn't want to do his whole life, and to take authority and, learn to be okay, basically hating his life, like not having a passionate life.
Yeah. And it is amazing when train them, and the more it becomes a habit. Like now, if we've been to the shack or he can see that I've had a really tough day, he will just pick up and help. without.
And that's
even...
not just because he's good at listening. For those of you listening, like Danny uses very conscious language. She's been huge into conscious parenting for like 3.5 years, 4 years. But where that has come from more than the way that you request, or you say check yourself, or you say next time, or you preface what you're saying, where that's come from is the seeds you've sown afterwards. It's the appreciative praise. Yeah. Your kids know, you guys all talk about love languages. You do your family meetings. Everyone know once a year, we all do what mum wants. We all get a photo shoot. Like, everyone just suck it up, wear what she fucking tells you to wear. We're all doing a photo shoot today because this is what mum loves, right? But then there are days where, we all do what we know Jack loves, and we all do what we know Poppy loves, and we make extensions of ourselves for that. And so you've embedded all those principles through your repetition of your language, your gratitude that you've shown, the appreciation praise sows in the seed that you just planted before whatever the child just did to receive that appreciation. Appreciative praise is like up there with the most powerful thing you can do for your child.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, he does absolutely thrive on that. But I feel like there was a period where it was almost like a training ground where it'd been a bit slack and I wasn't getting them to contribute enough. And then I had to sort of go through that retraining period where he gave me a bit of grief. But that was quite a few weeks ago. And now he's just going out of his way to help.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
But
Jack's 9, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Sarah. He's 10 in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Is he? There you go.
Yeah. Pops is 7 next week.
Oh, wow. There you go. Yeah, really good question. Did I cover that thoroughly enough for like you, Katie, who else was it that asked? Danny, Katie, and Martine. She's not here. Did that help you too, Katie? Did you want me to elaborate on anything? Do you feel satisfied with that, or don't teach them to be too disciplined?
I think that's good. The only thing I'd just ask is, so she's homeschooled, so she's got a pretty good.
That's right. Yep.
We're unschooling her, so she's kind of does what she likes.
Yep.
And she loves these chickens, and so we said, well, how about we support you to do the business? And she's right into it. But I get that, money's not the motivator, and it probably isn't, I don't think. I probably need to go into that a little bit more with her in terms of just focusing on that intrinsic value.
But just work out what she wants. Like, what do you want to buy with your money?
Yeah.
I want this toy. That's $50. That means you need to sell 15 chickens or whatever it might be, Yeah.
I think I just need to verbalize that with her. But what I was going to say is, there's some shitty jobs you got to do to look after chickens. Like, you've got to make sure they've got some water, you know, and sometimes that's not happening. And she's got that real emotional attachment. Nick's got the real business head. And so he finds it frustrating because he's like, but I don't, so that's the kind of
work with her values, right? So the way that I would do that, I did this with Bayer as well, with her birds, right? She wanted animals, and we're like, we're not having a dog. We want to travel and not deal with another kid to fucking get babysat or whatever. And so she ended up getting birds. And the way that, so you find something in that will appeal to them and align with their values. So for example, in your situation, instead of, hey, like, if you're going to have chickens, they need to be fed, they need to be watered. Instead, if she's got an emotional attachment, you go, hey, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm sure you didn't because I know you loved your chickens, but the poor little things, they've barely got any water, and the water they've got is so dirty. Go and have a look at the water. Those poor little chickens, they have to drink that dirty water, and there isn't enough for them all. So give it to her in a way that she's like doing it for the chicken, not for like, that's part of the deal if you're going to have a business. Does that make sense? So try to find a value of hers that will align, and that'll give her an intrinsic motivation for it. So make it always about all those poor, and other times you talk to Nick in earshot of her, like, but not to her, and don't let it look too staged. Like, oh, Nick, I just went down the back. Have you seen those chickens? Yeah, they don't have much water. Oh, I don't know when she's going to go check it. Oh, I'm sure she'll check it. I'm sure she will. Maybe we'll give her to the morning, and if she hasn't, I'm gonna have to remind her, because those poor little chickens, they're gonna wake up tomorrow and have no water, and it's gonna be a hot day tomorrow. Like, just like this little side conversation, so that she can almost like pretend that like you don't know that she heard that, and then she's like this self-responsible, like, oh, hey, I'm just going to go out and water the chickens or something like that, right? So give her the chance to have opportunities where she can do that, where she gets the reminder. It's not normal for a little brain to think about what do I need to do for a chicken, basically. So help her kind of trigger those thoughts in her brain, which over time, because it will bring her into emotion, and then her brain will give her a dopamine hit for completing that loop, like for having a problem and solving the problem. Oh, the poor chickens. Oh, I'll go water them. Every time she solves a problem, her brain will give her a little dopamine hit, and it starts to wire the nervous system for that. So she'll actually feel like she wants to, and it becomes part of her routine.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah.
Makes sense? Yeah, try find a value of hers that matters. Same with when there's too much poo in the pen and it has to be cleaned out. Oh, those poor little chickens. Have you seen the little guys? They've got so much poo all over their feet. How would you like it if you had to walk all over poo and, peck your food in between all the little spots of poo? That wouldn't feel real good, would it? So just, appeal to what aligns for her.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Amazing. No worries. Oh, good, Sarah. I'm glad. All right, Di, your turn, babe. Hi, everybody else that joined since I'm here. Hi, Shirley. Hey, Nick. Hey, Tam. Magda, Shara. Hi. Hello, Adele. Who else didn't I say hi to? Amanda. Hello, darling. Amanda, not Amanda Taylor. Other Amanda. Amanda M. All right. Oh, yes, I knew Sarah. Hey, Di. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very good. Very good. So I read all of your comment with regards to Blake, and
a bit long.
It's okay. That's okay. I like it. It kind of helps though, because either you have to explain it there or you have to explain it here either. So it's fine. No, it's good to get the background. So there's a couple of things I wanted to say on it. You know how you said like you left and then you kind of felt bad and you went back, but then you ended up leaving him anyway because he was actually quite fine. So I feel like you're at a point where you need to ask yourself if you do want to give him access to those choices or not. Like, are you comfortable with there being certain situations where he can choose not to come with the family if he doesn't want to come? Because it is better. Like Bayer does this a lot. So like we'll go to a lot of playgrounds and stuff on weekends. Amani and Miami both, most of the time want to come. They're happy to.
He does at home. So when we're normally at home, he does go to the skate park. He does get to just hang out with his friends if we're in the local area.
Yep.
And he does get a lot of freedom at home. The fact that we're now on the road.
Yep.
We were in an isolated area. We were right off Fraser Island, so it's like no dingoes. He's in the dunes. He's by himself.
Yeah.
The whole situation was just unsafe, but he was also in such a mood that we weren't going to be able to force him. We weren't going to be able to pick him up and literally put him in the car. I mean, I could have, but I would have been putting him in a wrist lock to do it. Like, it's just, it would have gone so out of control. I wanted to avoid all of that.
You know that comment where he says, wait, you said it at the end here, where he says, make me, right? How I want you to...
Like make me.
Yeah.
Make me.
Yeah.
So I did this real smart aleck type.
Yeah. And that's a power thing that's tied into...
Yes, and I'm wondering if it's because he would normally get the opportunity to use this and get
correct
the power
at school.
School, we're getting these issues with all of his mates. He's having social issues at school. So clearly, I mean, it's whether he's not doing it on the road here with us, he's still doing it at school. So either way, it's still non-productive.
It's still a behaviour.
It's getting to a point where everyone's retaliating. Peter's retaliating. Zali and Jet in particular retaliating. And so it's just not working out for him. Like he's just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm retaliating to him. Like I'm holding back obviously more than the rest. But it's getting to a point where people are just snapping now because it's like, dude, we've had enough of your shit.
So he might need two things. When he says make me, the response I want you to have, like as often as he gives you that response, is no, Blake, I'm not going to make you. I'm not interested in making you. I'm asking you. I'm asking you, please. I'm asking you, please, can you see my situation? I'm doing my best to see yours. I'm asking you, please see that I want to spend the day with you. I want you to come with us to the Dolphins. I please help me out. I'm not making you. I'm just asking you. So even if he's like, well, I don't care, make me, just make that your response all the time. No, I'm not making you. I'm asking you. The other thing is, I feel like
that what I meant in that comment, sorry, that sort of a comment is, oh, make me. That wasn't what he says when we say, come on, we're going. He's just like, I'm not going. It's like, okay, whatever. But
so
it's
do
like,
the same thing. Hey,
Blake,
I
stop
know
touching your brother, or stop hitting your sister, or like
that's where it gets all thrown off. So he creates a scenario where the attention gets put on someone else, or him and someone else, because he does something to them, and then it's about, you and them, or him and them, or whatever. Keep the attention on him. So when he's like, I'm not going, Blake, you know what, mate? I'm just asking. Okay. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to demand, but I'm asking you. So first of all, let me step back a bit. First of all, I think he needs more exposures, his brain, while he's in this reptilian brain, right? In this fight or flight type thing, or this fight or fight type thing. He needs more exposures to the idea of what's going to happen. Even if he's already been told, he needs exposure to it 7 to 9 times before he's asked to do it. So if you know today that you're going to the Dolphins tomorrow, talk about it today. Tell him tonight, hey mate, tomorrow, what is it? Tomorrow after lunch, or tomorrow we've got to get up really early. What is it I could do for you in the morning that would help you?
We're going. He wanted to go. He was up. He was.
Yeah, well, something through him.
The other kids, come on. Yeah, it was something that threw it, and things like this are happening so repetitively.
Yep.
And I even asked him today, once he'd calmed down, so I could let him know what the trigger was. He couldn't remember what the trigger was.
You probably won't know, because it's probably suppressed stuff, babe. Like anything that's been.
Not, there was something that happened, and it's always something that Jet does, or it's something that someone else does, or and it'll be a retaliation from him, and it's just that, well, I'm not going. I'm going to ruin the whole thing for everyone else. This is my I can get my power back here.
Like
and
a separation from himself.
And it's just so frustrating, because it's happening multiple times a day.
I think the only way you work that out is to keep him connected to himself. So even if you notice, or there's a moment with Jet or something, it's going to have to be like, instead of shifting your attention onto those two, it's going to have to be coming back, darling, like, Blake, let it go. I saw what Jet did.
That's what I keep saying. Let it go.
But not even like let him feel like you'll do something about it. Let it go. I saw what happened. I will be taking that up with Jet. It wasn't okay. I saw what happened. Stay connected to yourself, okay? Don't focus on Jet. Jet doesn't even deserve your mental attention right now.
Yeah, and
let's have our good day. And touch, like, I don't know if another thing you could do with his nervous system when he's like this. Have you seen those weighted vests? I don't know if he'd even wear it, but when
he hates touch.
Does he?
Hates it, but he wants it.
Yeah. He needs like a pressure, like, those weighted vests.
He wants it, and I can see it, and he just wants me to hold him like a little baby, or like you can just see eventually he just cracks it. And then
could you go into almost like a one-on-one time, say, Peter, deal with the other two, I'm just going to deal with Blake, and literally go into almost for your own convenience, hovering around him.
And this is what's frustrating. It's in the car, it's in the van, it's like it'll be at the most inopportune time, it'll be like,
really,
it's so repetitive, like it, and I don't. It's just this
I feel like the principle
and
the principle behind it has to be doing whatever you think you need to do or say in the moment to keep him connected, and not getting to the point where he's so disconnected he doesn't care, rather than making him stop. So whatever it is he's doing, never let the focus, or let me know if he responds better, if you never let the focus be about stop it, don't you start, or don't do that, or that's not, just nothing about stopping. It's the whole focus on keeping him where you want to keep him, getting him back into the space you need to keep him in, rather than telling him to get out of the space he's moving towards, or don't you dare go there, or stop it. That's going to just add to his make me, I don't care. The only chance you've got is keeping some level of connection with him, even if it makes him feel like to some degree he has power over you, because when he gets like this, he gets all your attention and Peter deals with the other two. Still not ideal, and it kind of, can potentially create another problem, but it's solving the problem right now while you're on holidays. And the other thing is, because Blake does go off with his friends a lot at home, and he does have a lot of freedom, like you've been amazing at letting him, go down to the park and go to the BMX tracks and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's needing it. Like I gave him this watch.
You guys living in a caravan is going to fucking kill his nervous system. Like it's going to, yeah.
It is. He needs to go off and have his own time already. And being the fact that he's only 9, I mean, he's 10 next week, but he's still only 9, and I keep
Yeah.
going, is this too young for him to be needing his own time on his own? Like teenagers need that stuff. So they already need it at 9, and I can see that he's needing it. And even at SeaWorld one day, he needed to go off, and he had his watch, and I just walked off and I left him. He had another breakdown at Wet and Wild where he just cracked it because we had to choose, you know, kids in a line, and you could only take 2 on a slide or whatever, but they had to be, the 2 little ones couldn't go together, so they were always getting split between Peter and I, and so he was constantly being left. And I'm like, I get it, but then he'd be like, oh well, I'm not going then, so he'd walk off and then come back, and the kids have been waiting in the line, and then try and push in, but then when you don't let him push in,
I think he needs to be sure. He needs to be sure, especially because he is the eldest and he can kind of, you know, kind of deal with himself a bit. He needs to be sure about when he gets you, because he might be struggling with becoming the big kid, the older kid, the kid that doesn't need as much anymore. There might be a bit of a struggle there for him. There was for Miami, especially when, you know, she ended up getting Zach in her life and she was no longer the little one and all that as well. She definitely struggled with the idea of, you know, like, like not being the little girl anymore. So in a situation like that, it's like, hey, I know you're making sacrifices, and I tell you what, I'm going to go down this slide with these kids, and then after I'm doing 1 slide with them, and then I'm going to do 3 slides with you or 2 slides with you, okay? And it's just going to be me and you, and we'll go on something that these kids can't even go on, all right? Dad will look after them. I need to do this with them, then I'll do it with you. Then you tell him now, don't just tell him on the spot. Then after I've done those 2 slides with you, I'm going to come back and do 1 more with these, or do this, and then I'll come back to you or whatever. So he needs to know in advance. His brain needs to be exposed to what's going to happen multiple times. So once you go do one slide, go, cool, I've got 1 more slide left, and then I'll be with you. So just constant constant.
And then I struggle with that too, because I know that he needs that certainty with the things going forward, because I do also, but things are changing so much at the moment that I can't give certainty. So it's like when I can't give certainty, then my nervous system goes out of whack, because I don't. And then he feeds off that. Him, and then I don't want to break it to him that it's not going to stick, because I know what the reaction is going to be.
And if the reaction is going to be the same, do it now rather than later.
So then I tend not to.
Yeah, I get it. And then you spring it on him, and he feels the vibe from you anyway, because he's feeding off you. And if he's going to have a tantrum anyway, you're better for him to have the tantrum now and move through it and then be ready to go, than to have that tantrum, which is going to happen anyway, because at some point he's going to know what you're doing and where you're going and be told what to do, and then have it in that moment that absolutely interferes with everyone's experience. So I feel like this is more probably even about you acknowledging your own anxiety and avoidances around triggering him. And when a child in any family has everyone around them walking on eggshells and making accommodations for them, that feeds an anxiety in them. Okay, it's almost like you know, they end up being like the anxiety dump for the family, basically, because you start feeling it and you get in the mood, then you're a bit snappy, then the next kid's like, oh, then it's like you pass the anxiety ball to that kid or to Peter or whoever, and then they're like, fuck, what was me for? That wasn't me. Now they've got their own issue. Now they pass the ball and they snap at the next person, and basically it all comes back and, you know, it gets dumped on the child, energetically, who is the one that everyone's scared to trigger.
Yeah.
And then they carry the weight of the family. So maybe you just own what you're feeling and acknowledge where you are avoiding a conversation or delaying a conversation because you don't want to deal with it now, but you know you are going to deal with it. It's either now or it's later, and just see where you are unintentionally contributing to his responses, because they seem like a bit of anxiety to me, and his response is like not even a flight, it's more of a freeze. It's more of a not doing anything, when his nervous system can't process or intellectualize what's happening. So his brain needs more exposure to it. The more you talk about it without being afraid of his reaction, without having an energy of, I'm not going to not talk about this because you might get upset about it. You're welcome to have your feelings. I'll be talking about it tomorrow. I can't wait. Our family's going to go do this. Who's excited to go do that? Or I'm not going. That's, you know, you will be going, or whatever you need to say. not even fight with him. We're not having that discussion now. Okay. We're not having the discussion. We'll all be going as a family. That's not a discussion we're having now. Anyway, who's excited for tomorrow? I'm excited. Like, talk about it more, familiarize your nervous system with it, familiarize his brain and nervous system with it. I think it'll make a difference, because at least then he'll only have to deal with the fact that maybe he doesn't want to go, not the fact that he doesn't want to go, on top of not knowing he was going to be told he had to go, on top of being in a power play, on top of. Do you get what I mean? Like, it'll just be, I told you I didn't want to go to this. I know you did. And I told you, regardless of what you want, it is not safe for you to stay at the caravan park tomorrow. So if you don't want to be engaged, we will find somewhere for you to sit while we go in. So when we get there, we'll have a look at the surroundings. And if it is safe, and if there's a possibility and you don't want to be engaged, I'm sure there'll be a seat you can sit on while you wait for us or whatever. So it makes him feel like you're willing to look at options to accommodate him. And then when you get there, there is no option. You're going to have to come, whatever the deal is. But it at least makes him, and you don't say you won't have to participate. I'm happy to explore those options, Blake. If we get there and you decide you still don't want to be part of it, I will ask someone if you can stay back. I will ask someone in the reception if you can sit on a chair, or, whatever you could possibly do. And at that moment, if there's an option, you can choose which one you want to do in the moment. Okay. I'm willing to look at that. But I don't know if there'll even be an option. So prepare yourself for both, okay? There's a chance you're going to have to do it, and there's a chance that you may not have to if you decide you don't want to. I'll explore that option when we get there and we see what's available. So he always feels like you're trying to communicate with him, or, like negotiate with him. And then when you get there, okay, Blake, look, you know what? There isn't even an office person here. Everyone's getting in the boat. So it looks like it's something that this time you're going to have to do. I understand you don't want to do it. I appreciate it's going to be a big effort for you to force yourself to get in the boat. I'm asking you, please get in. Let's just do this. And then you know what? Afterwards, anything else we do for the rest of the day, you don't have to be part of it if you don't want to. And you know what? Tonight, if Dad's going to go out for dinner, and if you don't want to leave the caravan, I'll stay back with you. Like, just give him some kind of negotiation that you can offer. I tell you what, because you put yourself out for us today, because you have to get in this boat and go on this boat ride right now, tonight you can stay up half an hour. Okay, because I'll extend myself for you in return for how much I know you need to extend yourself for me right now. Please get in the boat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the best you can do. By the way, it's going to need consistency.
He's just getting triggered by heaps of stuff. The three of them obviously together. Him not knowing where we're going, but we don't know where we're going. Like, we are changing it.
But make that the exposure. Like, we don't know what we're doing. This is the thing with our holiday. Like,
we've been telling him that. We don't know. And we've been getting maps up, and we've been showing them, like, we were here and then we could go here or we could go there, and then we'll see a skate park on the side of the road that they want to go to. I feel like we're literally doing a tour of Australian skate parks at the moment.
Yeah.
We're trying to accommodate them, and then he will just snap over the dumbest shit, and it'll be like, why do you need to, like, just antagonize someone?
And remember, nothing is an overreaction. Right? There's no such thing as an overreaction, remember?
And I know that.
Responding to something.
But I don't know what the hell is giving him.
I think it's you, babe. I think he's real. We've always said he's very connected to you.
Oh, yeah, he is.
You've got an anxiety.
Yes.
I reckon you've got a real fear around rocking the boat with him, and understandably, because when he loses it, it's not good.
With anybody.
Yeah. So I think if you do the work on that and you get to a place where, kind of like you did, towards Peter when we were doing coaching together, where you're like, okay, I know you're not going to be happy about it, but I'm also not changing my decisions for you. You'll have to have your own issues, and I'm not going to change your experience. I'm not going to fight back at you, but I'm also not going to engage. Like, you're allowed to have your own feelings, but I'm not walking on eggshells for you. I'm not changing what I want to do for you. I'm going to do what I want to do, and you're going to feel how you want to feel, and I'll just let that be okay. I'm not getting involved with it, right? That same kind of energetic boundaries that you had during that time for the whole year is what you need to apply here with Blake. I'm not letting you change what we're doing as a family. I'm not afraid of your emotions. I'm not afraid of your tantrums. I'm not afraid of your power plays.
The thing I am not happy with, though, is that it's usually violence towards the two little ones, and that isn't okay.
Like, and then you step in on those moments. Yeah.
Which is what I'm doing daily, multiple times daily, in the car,
Exhausting.
the kids are kicking off, and then the kids are hitting.
Maybe with your kids, I don't know. Do you ever do you let your kids go in the front seat yet? Like, does Blake go in the front seat? Can you travel in the back sometimes and like let each kid have a turn in the front, or maybe not Zali because she's too small or whatever?
I can only Blake. The other two have to be in car seats still. So
okay, cool.
Blake
So could you like?
Yes, and we do that.
In the front?
We do it where we sit, but then it becomes a thing where he thinks he gets to sit, and we've got 3 across the back seat with 2 car seats at the moment, so he's a lot smaller than me. So
barely.
Not really, not anymore. But yeah, so I could, yes, that's possibly something.
I feel like it's an energy from you, and like there's no strength in your energy. Like it's all shaky and weak because you're not resolving. You're trying to avoid something rather than going, if this happens, I mean, whether I try and avoid it or not, it happens anyway. So I'm just going to own it and let it happen. Come on, if you're going to do a challenge, do it now. Let's move through it.
I can give back to Blake, I think. And that front seat's possibly going to be a good option.
Yeah, and he's going to need space without the other kids.
Because he does put up with a lot from Jet and from.
Yeah. And when you see it, like when you know you've got to go somewhere in 10 minutes, you while you're traveling in a caravan and you guys don't have any of your own space, when you know you need to keep shit pretty fucking calm so that you can go somewhere in a minute, you might need to hover over him and like basically be organized yourself half an hour in advance so that when you make the announcement, guys, we're getting ready.
I got up an hour earlier. I've done like all these
hard. I know, that's hard.
Like, you know, I do these steps. You know, I do all the steps. I'm already using the language. And he even throws it back at me now. Oh, you can say you bloody whatever, and he'll throw the comments. I'm like, you fucking smarter. Such a fucking little shit.
Yeah.
And I love it, but
yeah.
And then
I think you have to keep him connected to himself,
give
him more exposure, and somehow give him something special that when he has to sacrifice himself. The only way you change it is keep him connected to himself. As soon as he doesn't care, like you've lost it, right? So whatever you think you can do to keep him connected, that'll be your only chance.
Throw the ideas out there, anyone?
Yeah.
Like the front seat, the ideas. That's what doesn't come easy.
Well, keep me posted, right? Just see how you go. But yeah, I think you just having an awareness of your own emotions and your own issues, I reckon that will take the edge off it at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be afraid of him. Don't. I feel like an energetic blueprint, because I know you real closely from our coaching for like a year together. I feel like the energy I'm getting from you around Blake is actually very similar to the energy you at least used to have towards your dad.
Exactly the same.
It really feels like that to me. And do you remember what you had to do with your relationship?
It was funny. Peter even said to me, he said that, yeah, absolutely. Peter even said to me, only, I think it might have been earlier today or maybe yesterday, I don't even know what day it is, but he said that he's so much like your dad, and he did say like, he only lasts until about mid-afternoon, and then he's just off to, like, you just can't even reason with him. He puts himself to bed at 7:30, like he just does not cope after 5 o'clock. Everything gets
so you remember what you did and what you had to do? You remember that day you had to block your dad from calling you. Then he called me at that. Then he called me at that fucking. And then he called me at that convention that I was at in bloody Queensland or whatever. Remember? Because he couldn't get, because he was like, oh, I don't have control. But and remember that when you did that, how sick you felt, like the codependency cycle you were breaking, like you were like physically ill around the fact that you have just cut your dad off and blocked him here and blocked his number and blah, 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 right?
I felt sick driving away from the caravan park this morning.
That's right.
He looked at me, he goes, do you want me to turn around? And I'm like, I feel sick. Like, the fact that I'm just putting my foot down and going.
Yeah.
I'm just,
And maybe the other thing to keep in mind, and mention to Peter, that, making decisions like that. So maybe don't say, well, if you don't get in the car, we'll leave you, because then if you say that, you're going to have to do it. But at the moment, with what I'll talk in code a little bit, but with what you guys have been going through, the last thing you need is to not be there and he steps down the step of the caravan, rolls his ankle, just has a normal random accident.
The ranger turned up while we were gone. And thankfully Peter had left his phone behind. and
Exactly.
you rang me.
Last thing you guys need is a child that
Another
hurts
report.
themselves and you guys weren't there. That will put
Mm-hmm.
the nail in the coffin for some pretty bad shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't even make a threat like that. Do not say a thing that you can't carry forward through. You can say, if you're not in that car, here's what it's going to mean. I'm not going to force you, but what it's going to mean is that I have to miss out, because I will not leave you by yourself, and I will not take the special day away from everybody else. And I want to have that day. So if you choose not to get in the car, it's going to mean I have to stay with you. Either you have to get in the car, or the ultimate decision is one of you can't go, which isn't cool, isn't fun, and it ruins a lot of things. But that's the choice you got to make. Either you force him into the car, or one of you have to stay, and you let him know, like, this is something we want to do, and it's going to feel really unfair, and it's not something we can do again. Like, give him a truth that is the truth that you would follow through with, if you had to, not that you want to. And maybe you and Peter sometimes might have to tap out and take
that would be really hard.
It would be, but it's also
me,
really hard trying to force him into the car. And then it's also really hard getting him into the car.
I'd rather force him into the car than say.
Well, then do that. Yeah, well, then force him into the car.
Which is probably something, because I would need to work on that. I need to work on that. I can't have plans change. That's something that really triggers me. So
yeah.
But then also now, in the moment, the violence wouldn't trigger me at all. I'd literally fold him in half and put him in the car. Yeah. No problem. But it's later, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm back where I was 3 years ago.
That's right. I know. Yeah, don't pull no cop moves on him. If you have to pull a cop move on him to get him in the car, a move that no other random mother would know,
that's right. It's like, crossing the line. And it's like, it's not okay.
I know.
I know that.
Yeah, no, that's crossing the line. If you have to go that far, you're better to deal with your own shit.
And that's where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave you in the caravan at the caravan park, as sick as it's making me feel, and I'm going to drive off. And thankfully, Peter had forgotten his phone, and I was able to ring him at that moment. That was fine. But it's the constant negativity every day. The constant, I get it. Every day. Constantly putting Jet down, constantly telling him he's shit, constantly telling him he can't do something.
Yeah.
Like, it's just relentless.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. It's just negativity, put downs.
But in all fairness to Blake, he's had nothing. In all fairness to Blake, he's had nothing but negativity in his life for months now, also, with all of this attention he's been getting through the school, through, the friend and that mother, and all the incident with Zali. Like, he's, the fights he gets in all fairness to him, he's got a lot of shit in his life too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Yeah, you might have to decide to. You can leave him by himself if that's what you decide, and maybe you do leave a phone with him, and you do it when you're going to be gone for less than an hour. But if it's more than an hour, you don't have a choice. You have to come. If it's less than an hour, and you stay in the car or whatever, then we can leave you with the phone or something. Like, you can make whatever choice you want.
He's got his own watch, and we've been letting him have that time. Like, he went off at Wet n Wild, he went off at SeaWorld. I let him go and have that time off by himself. Like, I trust that he's streetwise enough to go off and have that time in a confined space. Today it was not a planned thing. It was off the back of an argument. It was it was just one of the negative moments that had blown up.
It was a complete unregulated nervous system, and then it dysregulates yours. Yeah totally. Yeah, he has to stay connected. No worries, darling. All right. Well, that's it, everybody. That's all of our questions tonight. So I just wanted to remind you all, I'll try and remind you every week on this call, we shut down for 2 weeks over Christmas. So I can't remember the date, but anyway, it's like whatever, like the 20th or something like that is our last call. So the week leading up to Christmas, but we shut down for 2 weeks over Christmas every single year. So there'll be nothing other, I'll tell you now, 19th of Christmas, 19th of December will be our last call for this year. And we'll miss the 26th and we'll miss the 2nd of January and we'll be back on the 9th. Okay, so we missed 2 whole weeks. It's actually 3 weeks between where we talk and when we talk, because we missed 2 whole weeks. Yeah. So any questions, any issues you got with your kids, any awareness you need to build, any videos you need to go back to the program to watch so that you can refresh yourself leading into the silly season, the season where there's so much stimulation, so much sugar, so many different people, end of school, holidays, kids around 24/7 instead of getting a 6-hour break from them. If ever there's a time to get back to videos, rewatch things, get yourself back in the game, get your mind in the game, get your language in the right place, address some issues, it's now until Christmas so that you've got a nice solid foundation to actually enjoy some school holidays with your children and to be able to cope while we're away from these calls for a few weeks. Okay? So I'll see you back next week, yeah? Good night, gorgeous people.